Hello, it's Father Rich. I'm back in front of the rectory bookshelf of the living room here at Our Lady of Peace for the next masterpiece, which happens to be a book that I have. And still working on reading it for it, but as it says on the front, it got the National Book Award posthumously after the author, Flannery O'Connor, died. It's called The Complete Stories, and it was published in 1971. And again, after she died, it was awarded that in that way. And there's a great summary of kind of just the reason that the appeal that it has. And so it says, demonstrating these strange and fascinating stories. She talks about these kind of dark tales about the murky places in the human heart and the violence that it sometimes takes to awaken it to motions of grace. So it's demonstrating these strange and fascinating stories, mostly located in the South, resonated with readers and critics alike, whether they were people of faith or those who would never darken the doors of a church. Her stories are marked by unexpected twists and turns, unforeseen moments of violence, profound observation of human motivations, and unmasking of the multiplicity of ways in which we deceive ourselves about others. An earthy and sardonic sense of humor, and a splendid grasp of the rhythms of speech and dialect, particularly those accents one might hear in the deep South. So I think kind of a great summary. It says that usually her stories center, these short stories, on a shock of revelation, a violent and unexpected experience or calamity that causes her characters to have to reevaluate who they are, what they believe, and how they should live. So kind of breaking people out of that superficial way of life that we can so easily fall into, and humanity does all the time. She wrote this about her stories. All my stories are about she said this, or wrote it, excuse me, about the action of grace on a character who was not very willing to support it. A great way to say it. So this is an interesting quote. She says in one of her stories, she would have been a good woman if it had been somebody, if there had been somebody there to shoot her every minute of her life. So this was a character, because she got shot, she got to force her to kind of look at more important things in life, and kind of saying if she got shot every minute of her life, she would have been in good shape. So how often is that our experience, when it takes something dramatic to really get us to look more deeply at what's going on in our life? So that's really a big part of these stories. And so so the author of this chapter goes on to say, who would have expected this from a Roman Catholic, a devout Roman Catholic of Georgia, who was born in the 1920s, but yet, would have these, and, she would write these great books about these earnest and simple people of religious faith, and make commentary on racism and entrenched social divisions. So she actually graduated from Georgia State College for Women in 1948. She was awarded the Iowa Writers Workshop at the University of Iowa, where she studied under some famous writers. But God was a central part of her life. She would say that God must be in all my work. That was a clear purpose for her. She was diagnosed in 1951 with lupus, and that ended up eventually killing her. And her father or mother, I think, had it and died from it when they were in their 50s. She got diagnosed when she was 26, moved back home to Georgia, which for her, who was a fierce, independent woman, was a challenge for her, but because that's where she could be taken care of and kind of live the rest of her life as she battled her disease, but wanted to continue to write. And so they kind of say that it's probably through that her suffering and her disease, the lupus, that really formed a lot of her writing in those years. During those years, she penned 2 novels, Wise Blood in 52, The Violent Bear It Away, 1960, and then 2 volumes of short stories, A Good Man Is Hard to Find, 1955, Everything That Rises Must Converge, 1965, and then numerous essays on writing collected in Mystery and Manners in 1962. She also wrote book reviews and theological reflections. She died in August of 1964, the age of 39, because of the lupus. And again, in 1971, she was given that the National Book Award after she had died. She described herself as a Christian realist. meant to say that the doctrines of the Christian faith were more than just symbols. And so, for her, that they were realities that shaped the human heart and the human destiny. So she had a real interest in theology, read both modern and ancient theologians. Would say that Thomas Aquinas was her favorite theologian. Remember, he was declared the preeminent Catholic theologian in the church in the late 1800s by Pope Leo XIII, and he would have written and lived in the 13th century. He was a Dominican, a great theologian and doctor of our Catholic Church. But she talked about really wanting the world to know that evil was real and that the devil was real. This is a classic kind of modern discussion in culture as to whether we can explain away all evil through psychology and the social forces, but she wanted people to know there was a supernatural reality, and that that we needed to be honest about it and be aware of the impact that evil has on us and on society. And so therefore be vigilant. She said she saw her work as invading territory largely held by the devil and a weapon in the battle against the nihilism of our age, just trying to talk to people in real life situations and stories that they could relate to. She said, my audience is the people who think God is dead. That's who she was trying to target. She says, while a woman of wide reading, she did not trust that the unaided intellect could lead to truth. She said, in fact, the intellect could be a tool of self-deception, create pride that walled one off from the deepest truths about the world, about themselves. So really very intellectual, but had a great faith and a great understanding of her faith in that connection. So again, encourage you to check out more about Flannery O'Connor, a great Catholic author of the 20th century, and her short stories. So that's our 64th masterpiece. Our next one with number 65, Only Visiting This Planet. It's a recording from Larry Norman from 1972. So thanks for joining me. Have a great day and God bless.